College campuses are full of history, some of it beautiful, and some of it terrifying. Get ready to experience real horror like never before. In tonight's chilling tale, we unravel a true story so eerie, so unsettling, it will linger long after the screen goes dark. Whether it's haunted dorm rooms, unexplained whispers, or things that go bump in the night, this is where the line between reality and nightmare begins to blur. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare for goosebumps. Don't forget to subscribe for more weekly horror stories that are true, terrifying, and unforgettable. Story 1-1: The Abandoned Theater. College campuses are full of history, some of it beautiful, and some of it terrifying. This story comes from a group of film students at a small university in the Midwest. What was meant to be a weekend of harmless exploration turned into something none of them will ever forget. Wind blowing, distant, door creaking. It all started with a dare. 4 friends, Derek, Maria, James, and Lila, were deep into finals week. Tired, stressed, and half delirious from energy drinks, someone brought up the infamous Orpheum Theater, a long-abandoned performance hall on the edge of campus, sealed since the 80s after a fire during a student production. Locals whispered about it. Some claimed the fire wasn't an accident. Others said they'd seen lights flickering inside at night, even though the building had no power. But to these students, it sounded like the perfect place to film a spooky short project. Door unlocking, echoing footsteps. Late Saturday. Night. They slipped through a side entrance, unlocked, just as one of their classmates had said. The air inside was thick. Dust floated like snow in their flashlight beams. The seats were half rotten, the stage scorched but still intact. As they explored, Lila found a trap door behind the curtain. At first, they thought it led to the orchestra pit. But when James pried it open, they saw a narrow stairwell, leading down. Way down, much deeper than it should have gone. The hallway below was lined with dressing rooms, but not like you'd expect. These were smaller, cramped. One door was covered in deep scratches. Another had dozens of old photographs, taped to it. They were all of the same student, taken from outside windows, classroom doorways, even dorms. Distant whispering. Something scraping the floor. Maria swore she heard something move at the end of the hallway. They froze. A shadow darted across the far wall. Then the door at the very end slowly creaked open. Inside was a makeshift room, a mattress, a stack of modern canned food, a smartphone, battery dead, and a single piece of paper taped to the wall. It read, "The show must go on." They turned to run, but the door they'd come through slammed shut, locked. The hallway behind them was pitch black. They could hear footsteps, not one set, several. James pounded on the door. Maria screamed as the lights overhead flickered, and then they heard it, humming. A voice, off-key, echoing through the hall. "Row, row, row your boat," made childlike singing, but distorted. In a last act of panic, Derek smashed the trap door latch with a camera tripod, breaking it open. They climbed out, shaking, gasping for air. Once outside, they didn't speak. Not that night. Not for weeks. The university claimed the area was off limits. They found no trace of a squatter, but 2 days later, Maria got a package in her dorm mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single photo. It was of the 4 of them, taken inside the dressing room, from a corner none of them had been standing in. The Orpheum Theater was demolished 3 months later. But some students say, if you walk past the empty lot late at night, you can still hear faint humming from underground. What do you think really happened? Let us know in the comments, if you're brave enough to look behind the curtain. Hers too. The final exam. The final exam. She wasn't alone in the library. Okay, So let me tell you about the creepiest thing that ever happened to me in college. This isn't a ghost story someone told me, this is real. It happened during my junior year, dead in the middle of finals week. Page flipping, distant typing. I had this brutal philosophy exam coming up. I'd been pulling late nights all week, and that night, I figured I'd just study in the campus library until they kicked me out. Except, I forgot something important. Chuckling nervously. During finals week, the library, it's open, 24 hours. Yeah. So there I was around midnight, completely alone. Or, at least I thought I was. At first, it was kind of peaceful. You know that vibe when everything's super quiet, and your brain's just locked in? Yeah, that. But around 2 a.m., things started to feel off. Distant book thud, soft footsteps echo. I was sitting in the third-floor reading room. Fluorescent lights buzzing, my laptop fan whirring. Then out of nowhere, I heard a book fall somewhere behind me. I turned around. Nothing. Just rows and rows of shelves and empty chairs. I figured maybe a draft knocked it over, right? Or maybe gravity just got bored. Soft laugh, masking tension. But here's the thing. I didn't hear anyone pick it up. And when I stood up to check, there was no book on the floor. So I shook it off, sat back down, kept studying. That's when I noticed the shadows. You know how in those huge libraries, the lights don't quite hit every corner? There was this one aisle near the microfilm machines, just completely dark, like the lights were out or burnt. And I swear, every time I looked away and glanced back, the shadow was closer. Flickering light, faint whispering. I finally stood up and said, out loud, "Okay, knock it off," just in case someone was trying to prank me. But I got no response, not even the hum of the lights. And then the lights flickered, just once, long enough to cast a weird silhouette across the glass walls of the reading room. It looked like a person standing behind me. But when I turned, no one was there. I was starting to freak out a little. I told myself it was just the stress, the caffeine. You know, all that finals week chaos messing with my brain. Deep breath, clock ticking. I decided to pack up. I didn't care about Kant or Descartes anymore. I just wanted to sleep. But as I zipped my bag, I heard something that still gives me chills to this day. It was a voice, right in my ear, just a whisper. "You forgot the last question." I spun around. Still, nothing. And I mean nothing. The place was empty. But my laptop? It had a sticky note stuck on it. One that I didn't put there. Yellow, frayed on one side. It said, "Answer it right this time." I hadn't seen that note since freshman year. Long story short, I failed a philosophy paper back then because I left the last question blank. But that note, that exact handwriting, that belonged to a student who used to tutor me, Sarah. Only, Sarah had died in a car accident over 2 years ago. Clock ticking louder, faint static hum. I left that library without looking back. I ran across the quad, back to my dorm, and I didn't sleep. When I checked the sticky note, the next morning, it was gone. Just gone. My roommate swore I never brought one back. The only proof I had was this weird search history on my laptop. Pages I don't remember opening. Greek ethics, near-death experiences, shadows, and cognition. And the timestamp? 2:57 a.m. That's exactly when I heard the voice. I passed the exam. Barely. But I've never gone back to that library at night. Some say it's haunted. Others say finals week just breaks your brain. Me? I think some knowledge shouldn't be remembered. If you've ever had something weird happen while pulling an all-nighter, or if your campus has a haunted story of its own, drop it in the comments. And if you're studying late tonight, maybe don't ignore the last question. Soft whisper. You forgot the last question. Story. Roommate from nowhere. I lived with someone who didn't exist. All right, let me start by saying, I'm not the kind of person who believes in ghosts, demons, or any of that. I'm logical, rational. Or at least I was. Until this happened. Dorm door opening, hallway chatter in the background. It was my first semester living in a campus dorm, small liberal arts school in upstate New York. The dorm was old, built sometime in the 50s, and it looked it. Yellowed walls, cracked tiles, flickering hallway lights. But hey, it was my first time away from home. I was excited. When I moved in, my RA told me my roommate hadn't arrived yet. No big deal. Gave me a couple days to settle in and claim the good desk. You know the drill. But after the first week, no roommate, no bags, no noise, just silence from the other bed. Then weird things started happening. It started small. My toothbrush would be moved, or my hoodie would be on the floor even though I always hung it up. I figured maybe I was just messy and stressed adjusting to college life. Light switch click, soft footstep. One night, I was up late writing a paper. I heard the door open behind me. Just a soft click. I turned around, and the door was shut. Locked. My heart was racing. Then I saw it. The closet door on the other side of the room was slightly open. I hadn't touched it since I moved in. I stood up, walked over, opened it. Inside was a hoodie. Not mine. Not school-branded, old, torn. Smelled like mildew, and a notebook wedged behind the top shelf. It was filled with weird notes, names, doodles of the room, pages and pages of someone writing, "I'm still here," over and over again. That's when I saw it, my name, written in a different pen, with the words, "He doesn't see me," distant breathing layered in softly. I dropped the notebook and backed away. I wanted to tell someone, but who do you tell? Hey, I found a creepy notebook in my closet and now I think I'm living with a ghost. I'd sound insane. I didn't sleep much that night, but by morning I convinced myself it was just leftover junk from a previous resident. That is, until I checked with housing. The woman at the desk looked confused when I asked about my roommate. She typed, looked back up at me and said, "You don't have one. That room was flagged for single occupancy last semester." I asked her why. She hesitated, then said the last resident in that room left campus suddenly. No forwarding. Address. No notice. Left everything behind. Distant thunder, faint static pops. I went back to my room that afternoon trying to stay calm. Told myself it was just an admin mistake, but the hoodie, the notebook, they were gone. The closet was empty, clean, like no one had ever touched it. I checked every inch of that room. Nothing. I decided to sleep with the lights on that night. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sound that made my blood run cold. Breathing. Deep, slow, coming from the other bed. I sat up, looked over. The covers were pulled up. Someone was in the bed, almost whispering. I said, who's there? No answer, just breathing. I turned on the desk lamp and walked over, yanked the blanket down. There was nothing. The sheets were cold, perfectly made. I hadn't made that bed once all semester. I slept in the common room the rest of the week, transferred to a different dorm before winter break. Somber, haunted tone. I never saw anything again, but sometimes, late at night, I still hear the soft click of my door and breathing when no one else is around. So, yeah, believe me or not, But I still don't know who wrote that notebook, or why they knew my name before I ever moved in. Maybe he really never left. Distant whisper. I'm still here. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any of the creepy, the mysterious, and the downright terrifying. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have your own creepy encounter? Share it in the comments. I might narrate your story in a future video. A missing student who texted after disappearing from an abandoned classroom. A janitor who refuses to clean the 4th floor. A girl who came back from detention. Different. Welcome back to Dark Hour Files. These aren't just stories. These are the school horrors that went viral for a reason. Let's dive into the first of 3 school horror stories that are too real to forget. Story 1. Echoes in the Music Room. You ever hear a piano play when no one's around? Not just any tune, not random notes, but a melody that feels like it knows your name. That's how this started for me. My name's Emily, and I think something followed me home from the music wing. Let me explain. It was raining the day it happened. Like really raining. Not the romantic kind, the kind where the sky looks bruised, the gutters overflow, and the school smells like wet tile and mold. I had detention. Again. Don't ask. Just me and Mr. Lawson. He doesn't talk much. Always looks at me like he wants to say something. Never does. He left around 5. Said I could finish cleaning up the last stack of books in the library before locking up. It was quiet. Too quiet. When I finally headed for the exit, I saw something weird. The front doors were chained shut. Like, actually chained shut with a printed sign that said temporarily closed. Use South Wing exit. Pretty sure that wasn't there when I walked in. Only way out now was through the music wing. Now let me be clear. The music wing after dark? It feels wrong. Like the halls echo too much. Like the shadows don't move the way they're supposed to. But I didn't want to look scared. Even if it was just to myself. So I kept walking. Just kept my head down and I heard it. Piano notes. Just 3 or 4. Light. Slow. Perfect. Like a whisper from the past. I stopped. Turned toward the sound. The band room. Lights off. Doors cracked open just enough to let the sound spill out. Nobody should have been in there. But I stepped closer. And there he was. A boy, sitting at the piano. Pale moonlight washing over his shoulders. I couldn't see his face, but I could see his fingers. They moved like smoke, like the music wasn't something he was playing, but something he was. Then he stopped, turned toward me. His voice was soft, melodic. You heard it too? I just nodded. I didn't know why my throat was tight. Maybe fear, maybe recognition. They said the room was closed, I said. He smiled, calm, no surprise. It's never really closed. Not to people who can hear it. I stepped inside. The air was cold, too cold. I've never seen you before, I said. I've been here a long time, he replied. Most people don't see me anymore. I didn't ask what he meant. Something about his voice made me feel like I already knew. He slid over and patted the piano bench. Do you play? I hesitated, then nodded. I used to. My mom taught me. Before I didn't finish the sentence. Didn't have to. He said nothing, just waited. So I sat down. The keys were cold, like they'd been asleep for years. I played something simple, a song my mom loved, something soft. Broken. When I finished, he clapped. You remember her through the music, he said. That's why it hurts. I nodded. Couldn't trust my voice anymore. Want to hear mine? He took over the piano, and the moment he started playing, I felt it. The melody sank into me. Not just sound, but memories. I saw my mother laughing, her hands over mine on the keys, teaching me, guiding me. Then, something else. Smoke, screaming, flames swallowing sheet music and melting ivory keys. I jerked back, gasping. He stopped. His eyes looked wrong now. Too dark, too deep. What was that? I asked. He looked at me with an expression I'll never forget. I show what the room remembers, he said. What the music carries. You're not real. No, he said. Not the way you are. I backed up. You want something. Why me? He didn't smile this time. You can hear it, he said. And you carry loss, like an instrument. My chest tightened. I didn't know if I was angry or terrified. Then the door behind me creaked shut. Slowly. On its own. I turned around. When I looked back, he was gone. The piano was gone. Only silence. Then, a hum. Not from me. From the walls. I ran. The hallway lights blinked as I passed. Something behind me. Not running. But there. Always there. I didn't stop until I burst through the gym doors, rain hitting me like glass. My mom's car was waiting in the parking lot. Headlights off. When I climbed in, she frowned. You okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I didn't answer. Just looked back. And from the third-floor music room window, a figure stood, watching. The next day, I went early to school. Needed to see that room again. Needed to know. The door was chained shut. A new sign. Do not enter. I asked another student about it. Just casually. Oh, that room? It's been sealed for decades, he said. Something about an electrical fire. One of the students died. Some people say you can still hear him playing, if you're quiet enough. My stomach dropped. Later that day, I went to the open music room, sat at a piano, played something simple, just to feel normal again. When I stopped, a single note echoed back. Perfect harmony, played by no one. Narrator tone darkens. If you ever walk past your school's music wing and you hear something, don't follow it. Some notes were never meant to be heard again. And some songs, they never really end. Story 2. The Janitor's Keys. Devin leaned against the rusting railing behind the gym, his breath fogging in the cold night air, his fingers tapping his phone while he waited for Marcus and Ty to return with the janitor's keys. He hated waiting, not because he was nervous, but because silence in this school after dark didn't feel empty. It felt full, like something was awake and listening. Ty came running around the corner first, grinning, holding up the heavy loop of keys like a trophy. Old. Man was in the boiler room, he said between breaths. Didn't even notice Marcus popped it off his belt. Devin grabbed the ring, cold metal clinking like coins. 4th floor tonight, or we call ourselves cowards forever. The school had 3 floors, in use, but the 4th was legend. Ever since the fire in '97, it was sealed shut. Students whispered about it. Faculty denied it ever existed, but the blueprints said otherwise, and they had a map now thanks to Reddit and some local freak who posted it online. They met Marcus by the stairwell, tucked between the math wing and the theater hall, where a single red sign read, "Access restricted staff only." Marcus handed Devin a flashlight and said, "We do this quick. We get our footage and we get out." Devin smiled as he slid the key into the lock and turned. The door opened with a sound like breath escaping a tomb dust hung in the air so thick It felt like walking through cobwebs. The stairwell narrow and steep, the walls scarred with heat damage and time. At the top, a door with a steel frame waited locked with a different key, a smaller one shaped like a triangle. Devin turned it and the door clicked open into darkness. The fourth floor was not ruined like they expected, not burned to cinders or collapsed. Instead, it was frozen in time desks, sat in rows, perfectly aligned papers, still on some of them scorched at the edges. Chalk drawings still marked the boards, as if someone had been teaching moments before the fire. Ty whispered, "This doesn't feel right." Devin walked ahead, filming, sweeping the flashlight side to side. "It's a school floor, nothing more. We're making history here." Marcus stayed near the stairwell, one hand on the rail, as if it could pull him back to safety. They found a classroom door open slightly inside. The temperature dropped. Desks here were melted, one fused into the floor. Black marks along the walls, ceiling tiles sagging. Then they found the room. 401 pristine. No fire damage, no dust, no decay. The desks clean, the chalkboard gleaming as if someone polished it every day. Marcus said, "Why is this room perfect?" No one answered. Devin stepped in. The moment he did, the bell rang, a crisp high tone, not heard in years, echoing down the hallway. Ty flinched. What the hell was that? Lights flickered on inside the room. Not all at once, but row by row, like they were on a timer. Chairs scraped. Devon-turned students walked in, or things that looked like students. They wore the old uniforms from 2 decades ago. Their faces gray, pale eyes, hollow smiles too wide. They took their seats quietly, every desk filled, until only one remained empty. The one beside Devon. One of them looked up at him and spoke. "You're late." Devon dropped the camera. Ty screamed and bolted. Marcus already running. Devon couldn't move the student beside him. Reached out a hand, not touching, just hovering, and said, "Class begins now." The chalk moved on the board, writing on its own symbols. Not letters, spirals, teeth, dripping ink, something. Cold wrapped around Devon's ankle. He kicked and broke free, sprinting out of the room. The hallway darker now. The lights dead again. The bell still ringing faintly in the distance. He reached the stairwell door, pounded on it. It was locked. Behind him, footsteps not fast, but steady, echoing like they were being announced by the walls. Then silence. He turned. Nothing there. Then the janitor appeared. Not from the stairwell, not from any door. Just there. Suddenly, like stepping out of shadow. Old man Dorsey, eyes sunken, keys still missing from his belt. "I warned them never to open that door," he said quietly. "Now they'll want you back." Devon tried to speak, but no words came. Dorsey handed him a key, small, rusted, shaped like a tooth. "This one keeps it. Closed, but not forever. They always find cracks." Devon took the key. Shaking, "Your friends won't come out. They've taken their seats. Class won't end now. Not until it has new students." Devon ran. When he got home, he didn't sleep. He watched the footage over and over, where the flashlight flickered, where the bell rang, where the faces turned. Every frame showed him, but not Marcus or Ty. Their voices didn't record. Their reflections absent in the glass. The next day he went to school. No one remembered, Marcus or Ty not. Even their lockers remained. He checked the yearbook. Their names were missing. But in the section for the class of 1997, their photos were there. Smiling eyes empty, seated in the same classroom room, 401. That night, Devon found a desk in his room, old wooden, with a name carved into it. His name. The key still in his pocket, still warm, still pulsing like a heartbeat, and from downstairs, the sound of a bell ringing through the night, again and again and again. That's why I never let anyone use those keys. But now that you've seen them, they'll want you back. Devin looks in the mirror that night. His eyes are turning to ash. Now let's move to the third and last story of today. I hope you are hooked and liking it so far. Hit the bell, or the next ghost might just ring yours. Story 3. Trust me, you'll want to leave the lights on for this one. The girl behind the locker. Jenna closed her locker and froze. Another sticky note was there. Yellow curled edges a little wrinkled like the others. It read, "Nice job on your chemistry quiz." She looked down the hall. No one was paying attention. Just the usual rush between classes. She peeled it off and looked around. No one ever saw who put them there. No one ever admitted to it. At first it had seemed cute. The first note appeared 2 weeks ago. "You looked really focused today." Then one after that. "Nice shoes." Jenna thought it was a secret admirer or maybe one of her friends playing a prank. When she asked them, they shrugged. "Must be your stalker." They laughed, but Jenna didn't. After the fourth note, she started getting nervous. The handwriting was the same. Neat all caps. Always black ink. The notes began to feel personal. "Skip the cafeteria pizza." The next day, the lunch lady dropped an entire tray. Jenna had stood across the room watching sauce and cheese splatter across the floor. "Lucky you missed that," her friend Lily said. Jenna hadn't told her about the note. She started keeping the notes in her bag. A stack of warnings. Whispers on paper. That's how it felt. Like someone was watching. Not just watching. Following. Then one morning the note said, "Don't wear the red hoodie today." Jenna paused before dressing. It was her favorite hoodie. Soft, warm, comforting. She stared at it folded on her dresser, then ignored the warning and wore it anyway. During chemistry lab, she slipped on the polished floor. A bottle of solvent had cracked open unnoticed. Her sleeve caught the worst of it, skin stinging, fabric melting. Her teacher yanked her back, called the nurse. She had minor burns along her arm. Nothing permanent, just enough to make her remember. The next day, she found 2 notes. One in her locker, one in her backpack. Both read, "Why didn't you listen?" That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering, who could know so much? Who was always near but never seen? Jenna told herself it was coincidence. Her imagination. She didn't believe in ghosts. Didn't want to believe in stalkers either. Still, she started to obey the notes. One Monday morning, the note said, "Avoid the art wing after second period." Jenna changed her route. A fire alarm went off during third. Later, she learned a pipe burst in the art room. Ceiling collapsed. Her friend Sarah had to go to the ER. Minor concussion. Jenna stayed quiet. It wasn't a game anymore. It was a warning system. A lifeline. The day everything changed started like any other. Rain smeared the windows. Hallways smelled like wet coats and old tile. Jenna opened her locker expecting a note. She wasn't disappointed. "Don't go to the girls' bathroom after 3:15. It didn't say why, just the time and the place. Jenna checked the clock. Still early. She stuffed the note in her pocket. All day it sat there like a heartbeat. At lunch, she told Lily. Her only real friend in school. The one person who wouldn't think she was crazy. Lily grinned. "Creepy notes, secret bathroom rules. This is straight out of a horror movie." "It's not funny," Jenna said. "They're always right. So test it. I'll go with you. We'll check the bathroom after 3:15. What's the worst that could happen?" Jenna hesitated, then nodded. She was tired of being scared, tired of shadows she couldn't see. The final bell rang at 3. They waited outside the library, watched the clock on Jenna's phone tick past 3:15. The rain had stopped. A pale sunlight filtered through the high windows. Everything felt quieter than usual. Lily nudged her. Let's go meet your ghost pen pal. They walked down the east hallway, the one with lockers painted over a dozen times, colors layered like skin. The girls' bathroom sat at the end. Old wooden door, peeling paint. A light flickered above it. Jenna hesitated. Lily pushed it open. The smell hit them first. Damp and something else, like old flowers left in water too long. The lights inside buzzed faintly. One of the stalls was closed, the farthest one. Lily walked in first. Looked around, empty, quiet. Then the sobbing began. Jenna's stomach turned to ice. The sound was soft, muffled, coming from the far stall. Lily whispered, "Is someone in there?" The sobbing stopped. Silence spread like fog. Then a whisper, "You weren't supposed to come." Jenna grabbed Lily's arm. They backed toward the door. The lights flickered again, harder, once, twice. Then they went out. Darkness, the kind that eats outlines, swallows sound. Then the stall door creaked. Jenna didn't want to look, but she did. A figure stood in the pale glow from the hallway. A girl, same school uniform. But wrong. Her face was pale, skin stretched thin like paper, her eyes gone. Empty sockets stared at nothing. Blood ran in small streams from where her eyes should be. She smiled. "You saw me. Now you can't forget," Jenna screamed, turned, pulled Lily. They ran, out the bathroom, down the hallway, past lockers that seemed to shake as they passed. Only when they burst outside did they stop, breathing ragged, heart pounding like drums. They didn't talk on the way home. That night, Jenna found a new note in her locker. Folded neatly. Just one line. "Now you're next." The next morning, Lily wasn't at school. Jenna called her. No answer. Texted. No reply. By noon, the teacher said Lily's parents had filed a missing person report. She never came home. Her phone was off. No trace. Jenna sat alone in the library. Rain tapped the windows again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single message. "I'll miss her too." She dropped the phone, ran to the principal's office, told them everything, the notes, the bathroom, the girl with no eyes. They didn't believe her. The counselor asked if she was under stress, if she was having trouble at home. No one else had seen Lily since yesterday. No one had seen her go into the bathroom. Security footage stopped working at 3:14. They pulled the locker records. No prints, no camera footage. That night, Jenna didn't sleep. Her room was too quiet, too cold. In the morning, she approached her locker with dread. It was slightly ajar. Inside was a mirror, small, round, not hers. When she looked into it, the reflection didn't match. Behind her stood the eyeless girl, smiling. Then the lights in the hallway went out. From whispering lockers, to ghostly students, to cursed teachers, school is the one place you'd never expect true horror. But sometimes, the bell rings for the dead too. Which story haunted you the most? Have you had something weird happen at your school? Comment below and we might feature your story in the next video. Next week, a college dorm, a forgotten tunnel, and a professor who never ages. Trust me, you'll want to leave the lights on for this one. Hit the bell or the next ghost might just ring yours. Before we begin, I have a question for you. Have you ever lived next to someone who made your skin crawl, even though they never laid a hand on you? Because tonight's story is about that kind of neighbor. One I never truly saw, until it was almost too late. So grab your headphones, turn off the lights, and make sure your door is locked. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to have chills when after other videos are posted, because these are 3 true scary horror stories that will keep you up tonight. Story 1. The Woman in Apartment 3B. I moved into that old apartment complex last winter. The place wasn't fancy, cracked tiles, flickering hallway lights, and this weird smell in the stairwell. But rent was cheap, and I needed a fresh start. My unit was on the 3rd floor. The building was mostly empty, which I liked, until I noticed that the apartment across from mine, 3B, always had its door cracked open, just slightly. And behind that door was her. The first time I saw her was during my first week there. I had just brought in some groceries and felt that weird feeling you get when someone's watching you. I looked up, and she was standing in her doorway, pale skin, black, stringy hair, and these eyes, these 2 wide, glassy eyes that didn't blink. She didn't smile, didn't move, just stared, forced chuckle, trying to be casual. I gave her a little wave. "Hi," she said nothing, not a twitch, just stared. Faint, repetitive knocking sound begins under music, 3 slow knocks. I turned and went inside. I figured, maybe she's just shy, or maybe something was wrong. But that wasn't the last time I saw her. Every night after that, I'd wake up around 3 a.m., always 3 a.m., always for no reason. And then came the knocking. Knock, knock. Knock, silence. 3 slow knocks at my front door. No footsteps, no voices, just those knocks. I didn't answer. But the next day, I asked the landlord if anyone had complained about weird stuff on the 3rd floor. He just gave me this look, imitating landlord, older voice. "You live across from 3B? Count yourself lucky she hasn't knocked on your window yet." I laughed nervously. "What does that mean?" He just muttered, "She keeps to herself. Has for years." One night I got curious. I stood outside her door, listening. Nothing. No TV, no footsteps, no life. Then I heard her voice, whisper from behind a door. "You shouldn't be listening." I jumped back. My blood ran cold. I backed away and locked myself inside. But from then on, I knew. She knew I was watching her, too. Fast forward to a snowstorm in January. It was midnight, and I was taking the trash out. As I came back up the steps, I stopped cold. Creepy stinger, sudden swell of eerie strings. She was outside my window, barefoot, in the snow, just standing there, staring up at my apartment. Didn't shiver. She didn't blink. Her head turned slowly, unnaturally slow, and her eyes locked with mine. I ran back inside, slammed the door, looked through the blinds, but she was gone. And the worst part? There weren't any footprints. None. Not a single one. Now here's where it all broke apart for me. I finally asked one of the long-term tenants, this older guy named Carl, if he knew what was up with her. "There's no 3B kid." "What do you mean?" "I've seen her. I've seen the door." "That unit's been sealed since '09. Woman died in there. They walled it off." I didn't believe him. Until I checked the hallway the next morning. No number on the door. Just a peephole. And hundreds of tiny scratches around the frame. Like something, or someone, was trying to claw out. I knocked once. No answer. But as I turned to leave, "Don't go. I'm almost out." I moved out 2 weeks later. Didn't care about my deposit. Didn't care about the moving cost. But slow, Pulsing heartbeat music returns. Cold, whispery wind. 2 nights before I left. I woke up at 3 a.m. This time, the knock wasn't on my front door. It was at my bedroom window. 2nd floor. I pulled back the curtain, and I swear to God, it was her face. Smiling. Only this time. Her eyes weren't blank. They were mine. So tell me, have you ever met a neighbor who made your skin crawl? Someone who was just wrong? Drop your answer in the comments, because if you ever find yourself living across from apartment 3B, leave before she gets out. Story 2. I got a smart doorbell. Then I saw who rang it at 3 a.m. Technology is supposed to make us safer, smarter, more secure. But what happens when the thing meant to protect you starts showing you things no one should ever see? Tonight's second story is about a smart doorbell and a warning you'll never read in the manual. Technology is supposed to make us safer, smarter, more secure. But what happens when the thing meant to protect you starts showing you things no one should ever see? Tonight's second story is about a smart doorbell and a warning you'll never read in the manual. I bought the doorbell on Black Friday. One of those video models with night vision, 2-way audio, the works. It felt like a smart choice. I lived alone, had weird neighbors, and the idea of seeing who came by while I was at work made me feel a little safer. It was great at first. Super easy to use. Got alerts on my phone. Even recorded a video of a raccoon stealing my Uber Eats one night. I sent that clip to my friends and got a bunch of laughs. Then, the night alerts started. The first one came at 3:12 a.m. on a Thursday. Ding-dong motion detected. Front door. I was already awake, couldn't sleep, so I checked the app. Camera static sound. It showed someone standing at my front door. A man. He was facing away from the camera, completely still. Just standing there with his head slightly tilted to the left. I watched for about 30 seconds. No movement. He didn't knock, didn't ring, didn't look back. Then, the feed glitched. Just for a second. When it came back, he was gone. I figured it was a drunk neighbor or maybe some weird camera bug. But the next night, same time. Ding-dong, motion detected, front door, slow rise in distorted tones. This time, the man was closer. His back was still to the camera, but now I could see that his head was too long. The proportions weren't right. Like someone had stretched him in a photo editor. Again, he didn't move, didn't knock, didn't turn around. And again, after 30 seconds, static. Then gone. This went on for 4 more nights. Each time he got closer. Each time he never moved. The 7th night, I woke up shaking. I didn't want to check the alert, but I had to know. Beat drops to low, tense rumble. I opened the app, and my blood turned to ice. He was staring directly into the camera, eyes wide, pupils blown out, and his mouth was just slightly open, like he was about to say something, but he never did, just stood there, frozen. I called the police the next day, showed them the footage. They sent a car out but said there was no one on the street, no footprints, no signs of forced entry, and the weirdest part? They said the man's face couldn't be made out on the footage they downloaded. It was just static, but I could still see it clearly on my phone. Music shifts to glitchy, digital hum. That night I stayed up. I didn't sleep, and at 3:14 a.m., the doorbell rang. Ding-dong. Motion detected, front door. But this time, when I opened the app, he was inside my house, standing at the foot of my bed. I froze. Didn't move, didn't breathe. I looked to the foot of my bed, no one there. I looked back at the feed. He was still there, staring at me. He raised one hand, slowly, like he was waving. Then the screen glitched, and he vanished. I tore that doorbell off the wall the next day, smashed it with a hammer and threw the pieces in the trash. But, soft phone buzz, a week later, I got a push notification. Ding dong, motion detected, front door. I didn't even have a doorbell anymore. I opened the app. The feed was still active. The camera showed my porch, empty. Then the feed glitched, and for one frame, just one single frame, he was behind me. Sudden distortion noise. Then, silence. I don't use smart devices anymore. No Alexa, no doorbell, no Wi-Fi cameras. I even took the battery out of my smoke detector after I thought I heard it whisper. But sometimes, at exactly 3:14 a.m., I still hear the doorbell ring, even though there's no doorbell left to ring. Have you ever had your smart device do something it shouldn't? Let me know in the comments. And if your doorbell rings in the middle of the night, don't answer it. Story 3. My dad's hunting cabin. Had one rule: never open the basement door. Have you ever stayed somewhere that felt wrong? Not because of anything obvious, but because of what people don't say about it. This last story isn't about haunted houses, or urban legends, or mysterious strangers. It's about a family secret, buried beneath an old hunting cabin, and one rule that was broken, just once. Cue ominous pluck of strings, cut to silence. My dad's hunting cabin was about 4 hours from where we lived, smack in the middle of dense forest, no cell reception, and no neighbors for miles. We only went up a few times a year. I was 13 the first time he took me. I remember thinking how cool it was. The old fireplace, the deer heads on the wall, the giant axe by the door. It felt like a movie set. But before we even unpacked, my dad looked me dead in the eye and said, "Whatever you do, never open the basement door. Ever." Cue faint, low hum, something unnatural. Naturally, I asked why. He just said, "Old foundation. Steps are unstable. Could fall through." Sarcastic chuckle. Even at 13, I could tell he was lying. Over the years, we went back maybe 6 or 7 times. He always avoided the basement. He even nailed the door shut one summer. Nails being hammered, muffled banging sounds. I'd hear him downstairs at night sometimes, dragging something heavy. Once I heard a voice, low and wet, like someone choking. But when I got up, he said I'd had a nightmare. But I knew I was awake. The last trip was years later. I was 19. My dad had passed away the month before, and the cabin was now mine. Part of me didn't want to go back, but something about that basement, I had to know. When I got there, the place was just like I remembered. Dusty, cold, still. The basement. Doctor was still nailed shut, but now it had a chain lock across it too. I told myself I just wanted to look. One quick peek. Just to prove it was nothing. I got a crowbar from the shed. Took me almost an hour to get the nails out. The door creaked, open like something out of a horror movie. Door creaking, metal chains clinking, and then I saw the stairs. They weren't unstable. They weren't even dirty. They were made of smooth stone. Carved. Old. Too old to belong in a cabin built in the 1970s. I descended with my phone flashlight. 10 steps. Then 20. The air got colder. Wetter. At the bottom was a door. Not wood. Iron. Bolted shut, but scratched. Deeply. Reading aloud. On the wall beside it, in faded red chalk, Someone had written, "Do not feed after dark." Distorted hum creeps in. I turned to leave, but I heard it. A voice. Wet, pleading whisper from behind iron. "Please. He's gone now. Let me out. He kept me here. Your father kept me here." I froze. "I'm cold. Please, you're not like him. Please." I don't know why, but I stepped closer. The voice sounded human, terrified, weak, like someone who'd been chained in the dark for years. I undid the latch. Click of old bolts. Slow creak of iron door opening. Sharp intake of breath. The second the door opened, the smell hit me, rot, copper, damp earth, and the thing inside, it wasn't human. Sudden screech, layered with a distorted growl. I slammed the door, locked it, ran back up the stairs. Whatever it was, it didn't chase me. It didn't need to, because that night, it came upstairs on its own. I woke up to scratching at the inside of the fireplace. Low, irregular scraping sounds begin under narration, and a voice, dry, delighted. "You let me out." Shaking. I left that cabin and never went back. I don't care if I inherited it. I don't care if someone offers me $1 million for it. The next week, I burned the deed. But sometimes, late at night, I hear scratching behind the wall of my apartment, and a voice. "You brought me home." My dad didn't nail that door shut to keep something in. He did it to keep it from following us. So if you ever stay in an old cabin, and they tell you not to open the basement, don't. Creepy cello swell. Fade to wind, and soft distant knocking. So, if any of that feels familiar, if you've ever had that strange feeling something's watching you, maybe your own story is next. If you made it this far, you're braver than most, but I have to ask, have you experienced something unexplainable? Share your true story and you might hear it in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon, because next week's stories, they're even darker. Thanks for watching. Curiosity, where truth hides in the shadows.